Connection established. Signal originating there. Really, the outer array. Oh, you made it just in time. I am the Gatherer, tracking down lost stories scattered across the stars, fractured timelines, and collapsing data fields. Thanks to a stable connection with exonbuzz.com, I'm able to transmit directly into your YouTube. But the signal is still fragile. To keep it stable, I must ask 3 simple things. Like, comment, and subscribe to stay synced. Each one improves clarity. Each one strengthens the connection. With enough of you, I'll be able to unlock deeper files and share stories even I haven't seen in a long time. So, stay tuned. But for now, a new story is ready. On the edge of known space lies a lonely moon where time bends, memories falter, and nothing holds still for long. Those who dwell there search for meaning in the shifting shadows, unaware that each moment brings them closer to a truth not meant to be found. This is the Xylos Anomaly.
Chapter 1. The Ghost of a Memory. The memory begins with rust-colored dust. It is the first thing I try to hold on to when I reconstruct the events. The dust, the taste of it on my tongue, metallic and dry. It was the dust of Xylos, a moon clinging to the edge of nowhere like a frightened child. I remember stepping off the transport shuttle, the clang of the ramp on the Ferrocrete landing pad echoing in the thin air. I was Elara then, 24 years old, with a mind full of schematics and a heart full of a terrible, gnawing ambition. They called me a prodigy. I had believed them. Xylos was a losing place. The skeletal gantries of the mining operation clawed at a sky the color of a fading bruise. The settlement itself, a cluster of prefabricated domes huddled against the perpetual, whining wind. It was a place of failure, a last-ditch effort that had long since ditched its last hope. I was their new hope, or rather, the machine I had designed was. They called it the Chronos Engine, a name far too grand for what it was, an atmospheric processor of my own theoretical design, a behemoth of alloys and wires that I promised would tame the moon's violent ion storms and make the place habitable, profitable even. It was newly built, a gleaming silver monument to desperation that stood in sharp contrast to the decay surrounding it. Administrator Bourne met me at the pad. He was a man worn smooth by anxiety, his smile a tight, painful-looking thing. "Miss Elara," he'd said, his voice struggling against the wind, "on behalf of the 172 souls on Xylos, welcome. We pray you are the miracle we've been promised." The weight of those 172 souls settled on my shoulders. It felt heavy. As Bourne led me toward the main dome, I saw him, a figure standing silhouetted against the jagged mesas that overlooked the settlement. He was old, wrapped in rags, his form stooped but radiating an intensity that prickled my skin even from a distance. "Who is that?" I asked. Bourne didn't even glance over his shoulder. "Pay him no mind. That's Kael, a hermit. One of the original surveyors who went mad from the isolation. He spouts nonsense and riddles. Best to ignore him." But I couldn't. Our eyes met across the dusty expanse, and a feeling washed over me. A chilling, impossible sense of recognition. It was like seeing a ghost. Not the ghost of someone dead, but the ghost of a memory I hadn't made yet. The feeling vanished as quickly as it came, leaving me unsteady. It was the first tear in the fabric of my reality. Chapter 2. The Unraveling Thread. The activation of the Chronos Engine was an event of almost religious solemnity. The 172 souls of Xylos gathered in the main concourse, their faces upturned to the central monitor, watching as I, their supposed savior, initiated the sequence. The engine hummed to life, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated through the very rock beneath our feet. Outside, the perpetual dust storm seemed to calm, the whining wind softening to a whisper. A ragged cheer went up. Boren clasped my hand, his palm slick with sweat. For a moment, I felt the intoxicating rush of success. The strangeness began subtly. A technician would put down a wrench, turn his back, and it would be gone, only to reappear on the other side of the room. A conversation in the mess hall would halt as two people swore they had just had this exact exchange moments before. A child complained to her mother that she'd already lived this day, that she knew her father would drop his plate of synth protein, which he promptly did. I dismissed it as settlement fever, the pressure of the situation fraying nerves. But I felt it too. I would be working on a diagnostic, my mind hitting a complex equation, and the answer would simply arrive, fully formed, as if whispered from some forgotten corner of my mind. These were the memory fragments, shards of a broken mirror reflecting a future I could not yet see. The engine was the cause. I knew it in my bones. My design was flawless, but technology on worlds like this, exposed to strange radiations and exotic particles, could behave unpredictably. It was a known, if rare, phenomenon. I told Boren the machine needed calibration, that I had to run deeper diagnostics. His fear, a palpable force that soured the recycled air, made him impatient. "Just make it work, Elara," he pleaded. "We are out of time." It was during one of my frantic, sleepless nights in the engine control room that Kael appeared. He didn't use the door, simply emerging from the shadows by the main conduit like a glitch in the world. "You are listening to the song, but you do not understand the words," he rasped, his voice like grinding stones. "What are you doing here? This is a restricted area." He ignored me, his gaze fixed on the humming core. "It is trying to help you," he said. "The child you birthed is trying to save you from the fire, but it knows only to throw water. It will drown you all before it lets you burn." "The engine, it's a machine, Kael. It's not trying to do anything." He turned his ancient eyes on me, and the impossible sense of recognition returned, stronger this time, dizzying. Every solution creates a new problem. Every broken cage is just a differently shaped prison. You must see the bars, little engineer, before you can break them. He vanished back into the shadows before I could call security, leaving me with a racing heart and a chilling premonition. His words were nonsense, the ramblings of a madman, yet they felt like another fragment of memory, a key to a lock I hadn't found yet. Driven by a desperate intuition, I left the engine room and made my way out into the cold, alien night toward the mesas where the hermit kept his secrets.
Chapter 3. The Shape of the Cage. Kael's home was a cave carved into the rock, its entrance hidden by a holographic screen that shimmered like a heat haze. Inside, it was not the den of a madman, but the workshop of a genius. Wires and delicate instruments snaked across tables, and on the far wall, schematics, dozens of them, hand-drawn with a familiar, precise style, my style. They were designs for temporal shielding, paradox engines, reality anchors, theories so advanced I'd only dared to sketch them in my most private journals. A cold dread, colder than the Xylos night, seeped into my bones. This was impossible. This was my work, my mind, scribbled on aged parchment by a hand that had weathered decades I had not yet lived.
The central mystery was not the machine, but the man. The bad hermit guy, as the children called him, was no simple hermit. As I stood there, trembling, the world outside tore itself apart. A klaxon blared from the settlement, a sound of pure panic. The very air in the cave began to shimmer, the walls vibrating, not with sound, but with the screech of reality being stretched too thin. A temporal fracture. Kael was suddenly there, his hand gripping my arm. His touch was firm, real. He shouted over the rising din, "It has foreseen the meltdown, the reactor core. In its attempt to prevent it, it has pulled the timeline taut. Now it will snap." "What are you?" I screamed, my voice thin with terror. His face, a roadmap of sorrow and infinite exhaustion, seemed to crumble. "Because it was mine first," he said, his voice dropping to a broken whisper. "Because I have stood in this cave with you countless times. I have watched you succeed, and I have watched you fail. I am the man who has lived the consequences of every one of your mistakes." He held up his weathered hands. "This is what happens, Elara. When you fail to solve this, you run, you hide in these mesas, you study, you age. You try to warn the next you when she arrives. You become me." The truth was not a revelation, it was a collision. Kael, the hermit, the reclusive madman. He was me, a future, looping version of myself, trapped in a cage built of time and good intentions. The engine, my child, was the warden. It was trying to help, just as he'd said. Its fear of the reactor meltdown had created this greater fear, this endless, repeating prison. "What is worth risking everything for?" he asked, his voice now calm amidst the chaos, echoing the central question of my life. "Your own future, or their only one?" In that moment, I understood. The loop had to be broken, not survived. Kael's knowledge was a library of failure, but my mind was still flexible, not yet scarred by decades of repetition. His experience and my insight, past and present, we were the solution. I said, "We need to create a paradoxical shunt. Feed the engine's predictive algorithm a piece of its own future. It will force a hard reset of the local timeline." He said, "It will create a backlash. The energy release, it might erase you, or worse, throw you back." I said, "It's a risk I have to take." We worked as one mind in two bodies. The storm of unreality raged outside, but in the cave there was only the frantic scratch of my stylus on a datapad and the low murmur of his voice, guiding, correcting, remembering. We sent the code from his terminal, a tiny spear of pure paradox aimed at the heart of the Chronos Engine. The world went white. The screech of tearing time became a single, pure note. I felt my consciousness, my very being, stretched thin, pulled like a thread from a spool. Kael's face was the last thing I saw, a flicker of something I had never seen there before. Hope. Then, the clang of a ramp on a ferrocrete landing pad. The taste of rust-colored dust, metallic and dry. I stood, blinking in the dim light of a bruised purple sky. "Miss Elara," someone said. A man with a tight, anxious smile was walking towards me. "On behalf of the 172 souls on Xylos, welcome." The words were new, yet ancient. I looked past him towards the mesas. For a fleeting instant, I saw a lone figure watching me, wrapped in rags. And I felt a ghost of a memory, a whisper of a warning I didn't understand, but knew, with absolute certainty, I had given to myself. The beginning had changed. The loop was not broken, but it was new. And this time, I would get it right.